Welcome to episode 321 of the Recovery After Stroke podcast. In this episode, I'm excited to introduce Fred Reeder, a remarkable stroke survivor of not only an ischemic stroke, but also multiple heart attacks and long-standing battle with rheumatoid arthritis. Fred's journey of recovery is nothing short of inspiring as he opens up about the challenges he faced from his stroke, including aphasia, fatigue, and relearning to walk, and how he's managed to rebuild his life despite the odds. Fred also shares his experiences with heart surgeries and living with a defibrillator, all while maintaining an optimistic outlook on life. His determination, resilience, and practical approach to recovery will resonate with anyone who's faced a health crisis. This is an episode packed with hope, wisdom, and insight for anyone navigating life after stroke. Just before we dive into Fred's story, I'd like to take a moment to talk about how you can support the podcast. If you find these episodes helpful, inspiring, or insightful, please consider supporting the show through Patreon at patreon.com/recoveryafterstroke. Your support helps keep the podcast going and allows me to continue sharing powerful stories like Fred's, providing hope and practical advice to stroke survivors and their families. Fred Reeder, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Bill. Good to be here.
Great to have you here. Tell me a little bit about what happened to you.
On the 8th of January 2020, I suffered a stroke. It was a ischemic stroke on the left-hand side, so I suffered a little bit from aphasia. But prior to that, I'd had 2 heart attacks about 5 years before. And my mother had rheumatoid arthritis, and I got that almost 20 years ago. So I've had a little bit of an interesting time.
What was behind the heart attacks? Do you know how you came to be in that situation?
My father's father died at 48 from a heart attack. My father smoked heavily, drank pretty much, liked to drink. But yeah, so it was almost going to come to fruition just because of his lifestyle and the fact that his father had a heart problem.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a similar lifestyle, smoking and that type of thing?
Yeah. I smoked, I drank, enjoyed both of them far too much, the truth be known.
It is a weird thing, smoking. I know it's not good for you, but I miss it and I used to enjoy it as well. And I still enjoy the smell of other people smoking near me or around me. It's some weird thing that happens.
Yeah, so do I. I understand that totally. I really enjoyed it, but yeah, I gave it away probably 6 years before I had my heart attack, just because the rheumatoid arthritis was starting, and to help alleviate the rheumatoid arthritis, they give you a thing called methotrexate, which is a drug which has bad effects on your liver. So I decided if I was going to be able to cope with the rheumatoid arthritis, the smoking had to go. So one of those things.
And then you had a heart attack 6 years after you gave up the smoking, roughly. And then you had a second one. So what was the reason for the second heart attack?
They didn't find the first one. I had that. I might have felt illish, whatever. The second one I knew about. Second one, it was December, probably 2 days after my mother-in-law's funeral, and I've had a heart attack, and it was pretty bad because the right side of my heart's damaged, the bottom end of it's dead, So it was a pretty major heart attack.
Uh-huh. So how old were you when that happened?
53.
Okay. And then a few years later, you have a stroke, an ischemic stroke. Now, how many years later and how old were you then?
I was 58 and it was in the January. I turned 59 in March. So it's getting towards the end of the 58th year. Yeah.
And what was the cause of the ischemic stroke? Do they know?
No, the best they can work out is that my heart missed a beat, caused a clot, and it ended up in my brain. And that's the best they can work out.
Mm-hmm. So you've been through a bit of a rough patch. Like, how do you mentally cope with all of that stuff that you've been through, especially when you got to the stroke, right? Are you looking back and going, why me? Are you looking back and going, I dodged another bullet? Like, how do you mentally work through all of the stuff that you've been through?
Basically, it's I've, I've missed the bullet again, and I'm alive, so you just move forward. Yeah, I'm not real worried about what could have happened. If it happens, then you deal with it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's a good attitude. When you had the heart attack, the second one, that major one, how did it impact your physical part of your life? So I know with stroke, you've got some deficits. We'll talk about those in a minute. But how does a heart attack impact people in their daily lives?
Well, mine was pretty severe. So I went and had a quadruple bypass in the January. So they opened me up, did four of the veins in the arteries. And then I spent 6 months recuperating. Yeah, you basically got to start learning not to walk, but how to walk regularly again, things like that. So you start off with you start off walking 2 minutes, and 5 minutes, and 10 minutes, then 15, 20 to get your body back to moving again. Plus, they give you a lot of other different exercises. So it was quite an interesting part. And then in the May, I went in and got a defibrillator put into my uh, defibrillator put into my left side, and they run to 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 joins two leads, and they stick into my heart so they can monitor my heart. So if anything goes wrong with it, I know, or they know.
Okay. So you've been through all of that stuff early on, and then you have the stroke at around 59. The stuff that you went through and you learned with after the quadruple bypass, did that help you get through whatever you were facing after the stroke?
I believe it did. Um, I recently got a few years ago got asked by a friend of mine's father, um, what do I think of what my parents brought home to my life? I turned around, thought about it, and I thought there was nothing wrong with what happened because I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly about facing your own demise and surviving it. So I had a pretty good idea of how to survive it before it actually happened to me.
Right. How to survive it mentally and emotionally because the doctors did their bit, they get you home and all that type of stuff. And now you've got to deal with the aftermath. So is it that emotional and mental survival? What specifically do you mean about that?
It's the emotional, the mental. I learnt from my father how to listen to the doctors and how to work out what will be good for me and what may not be so good for me. So I learned to work out very quickly what they were telling me, if it was good or bad, and whether it would work for me.
So you were kind of in control of your own destiny, informed, and then with the information that you had, you felt like you could make a decent decision on how you wanted to go about things.
Yes.
Yeah. And is that important? Does that give you a sense of control in your destiny? How is that important?
If you've had a stroke and you're in recovery, you'll know what a scary and confusing time it can be. You're likely to have a lot of questions going through your mind. Like, how long will it take to recover? Will I actually recover? What things should I avoid in case I make matters worse? Doctors will explain things, but obviously you've never had a stroke before. You probably don't know what questions to ask. If this is you, you may be missing out on doing things that could help speed up your recovery. If you're finding yourself in that situation, stop worrying and head to recoveryafterstroke.com, where you can download a guide that will help you. It's called 7 Questions to Ask Your Doctor About Your Stroke. These 7 questions are the ones Bill wished he'd asked when he was recovering from a stroke. They'll not only help you better understand your condition, they'll help you take a more active role in your recovery. Head to the website now, recoveryafterstroke.com, and download the guide. It's free.
I think at least I know what I should be doing. And it gives me the control that I need to make sure I live the lifestyle that I want to live.
After the heart attack, the second one, that major one, were you working? Did you manage to get yourself back to work?
I had basically about 6 months off without pay. And then I went back I actually went and got a 4-week job in Parramatta, 3 days a week, just to see if I could do it. After the first week, I knew I was fine. Then my ex-boss rang me up and said, "Can you come and do a couple of days for me?" I said, "Sure, I can do that." And 3.5 years later, I finished up.
Okay, so did you go back in a full-time capacity, or was it just part-time?
It was full-time basically, but like if I needed time off, I just could do with it the way I needed to.
And then what happened 3 years later? How come you decided to give it up?
I was in as a contractor, and the business and the organisation was having a lot of changes, and so yeah, they looked at it and they got rid of all the contractors. So then I went and worked here and there, working for just couple of months, just doing contract work up until I had the stroke.
Uh-huh. So you were doing contract work up until you had the stroke. Okay. So then you've got then you have a stroke. You end up in hospital. They discover there's a clot. How long do you spend in hospital?
I spent a week in North Shore Hospital. I was taken to Westmead originally, but I ended up in Royal North Shore because they were looking for a surgeon to remove the clot. So they took me when the surgeon was in Westmead, moved. So my wife drove from Royal North Shore Hospital, Westmead, and back to Royal North Shore where she worked. So I ended up in Royal North Shore Hospital. And the first thing I knew about it was I woke up in this hospital bed with my wife, my son, one of my daughters, her boyfriend, and myself. And they're saying, "Well, you've had a stroke. Now, can you give us 10 words that start with F. I went, why? Because they're trying to work out whether I had aphasia. So that was basically the first I knew about it. But from 8:30 onwards, I have no idea of what went on during the day.
Mm-hmm. So what was it like experiencing the stroke? Were you aware that you were having a stroke? Was there something that happened? How did it come about?
I really don't know. I came home, I took my car in to get serviced. I got home, poured, put the kettle on to make a cup of tea. Now, whether I actually made the tea or not, I have no idea. I remember I was on the couch and fell off the couch, and the son came down and said, Dad, you all right? And I was like, yeah. He's rung his mother. She told him to ring an ambulance. He rang the ambulance, and I was taken to Westmead Hospital.
Pretty instantaneously. So he's heard the thud, ran down to inspect and see what happened, and then noticed you were on the ground acting weird.
Incoherent was probably a better description of it.
Yeah, right. And your wife, is she a nurse? What role does she play at the hospital?
She's a retired pathology technician. So she worked in the hospital in a lab which does all sorts of things that come out of theatres, basically.
Okay. So she's fairly aware of what unwell people look like or what might be going wrong. She would have come across people who've had strokes before, but she knew enough over the phone simply by what your son said that
Yes.
you guys weren't going to work it out between the two of you.
No. So immediately rang the ambulance, and they were here within 20 minutes.
Yeah. And then when you've come home, what are you dealing with? Or did you come home? Did you end up in therapy first?
I ended up at Royal White Hospital for about 2 weeks, and they started therapy. You learn how to. I had a lot of speech therapy with them, and physical therapy, which I actually probably enjoyed more than most people, which is weird.
That's not
But
weird.
like, I did enjoy that.
Why did you enjoy it though? That's the
Oh,
interesting part.
I think because I always played sport, I always trained, even though I smoked like a chimney. But yeah, I always enjoyed the training part of it. So I was just kept telling myself, I'm just going to training and it'll be fine.
Right. So it's all about really, you felt like it was a bit of not a competition, but a challenge that you needed to go after.
Yes, yeah, basically.
Was it frustrating not being able to talk?
Yes, it was. 'Cause I like a chat, and yeah, I found it very difficult. I think within the Sunday after this was a Wednesday when I had my stroke. The Sunday, friends of ours came, and I spent the whole time being absolutely scared shitless that if I opened my mouth, I had nothing to say and just looked like an idiot. And that was one of the big problems I suffered with my stroke, not being able to communicate quickly and smartly. So that was a real challenge for me.
So you had a pretty quick tongue before that, and now you're in a situation where the words aren't coming. The aphasia. So what happens with the aphasia for you? What's it like? Is it that you can't think of the word or you can't get it out?
It's a
Where does it go
combination
wrong?
of both. It's a combination of both. Sometimes I can't think of the word, and then I've got to quickly find a new word, or sometimes I just have that. It's like a starter type of thing, because I know what I'm trying to say. I'm probably trying to get it done quickly so I don't forget it.
Okay, so it's catch-22. Or in one instance, you might be not being able to remember the word, and then when you remember it, you just want to spit it out, and then by the time you spit it out, you're afraid that you might forget it if it doesn't come out quick enough.
Yeah, basically that's it. Yeah. So it's a real good fun being me at the moment.
Yeah, right. It seems like you're fairly good, though. I mean, as far as your presentation here, it seems like you've come quite a long way. When you compare yourself to what you were like at the beginning, do you see a massive difference?
Yes, I do. My wife does. There are times when I'm frustrated because, especially as the fatigue kicks in mid-afternoon sometimes, and I probably need to have a bit of a rest and I'm not doing it for whatever reason. I do actually get her. She gets a bit, come on, get it said quickly and let's get on with it. So, yeah, it can be still frustrating for her.
Yeah. So in the evening, you find yourself sort of running out of battery, and then the delay between the word and the speech increasing.
That's basically it, yes.
Yeah. Do you find that you're good in the mornings?
Yeah, I'm really good in the mornings. And as the day goes on, it can get worse.
Mhm.
But been out at night with friends and found it, I've had a rest during the day and I've, been good up until say 11, 10, 11, 11:30, and then I'm ready to go home and rest up.
Uh-huh. So during the day, if you get a recharge in, then you can go for a little bit longer, and you can be uh, your speech can flow a little easier.
Yes, yes. So I try to have a bit break, snooze in the afternoons. That's not all time. It's just when I remember.
Hmm. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's probably when you feel most need, I would imagine, right?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
How long does that recharge need to take? Is it an hour? Is it less?
Oh, sometimes it can be 20 minutes if it's good. Sometimes it can be an hour. It just depends on the day, the time, the place. And whether I'm wanting to do something more. But
So depending on the agenda, whatever you've got going for the
yes,
day. So if there's something coming up, it's probably a good idea to get that rest in early on so that you can actually get to that particular event and not miss out.
that's usually the way I work it. Yes.
Mm. So what's it like now that you're at home after the stroke? I imagine that you haven't returned back to work. Is that something that's not happening now?
I retired basically the day of the stroke. Um, One of my daughters uh, grabbed my phone and went through and was going through every name that she knew, and every name she didn't, she'd ask me, "Who's this person?" And I'm going, "Who? What are you looking for?" He said, "Your finance bloke." Turned around and said, "Yeah, I know who he is." She said, "Well, tell me who he is." So I grabbed the phone, gave her the number. She rang him, and she turned around and said, "Well, got him, talked to him, and he said, well, he's got enough money to retire. So, why would he bother going back to work?" So basically, it just made sense for me to retire.
What kind of work were you doing?
I was an accountant, so basically sitting in an office and work on a computer,
Dealing with numbers all day.
dealing with numbers all day. Yes.
How is dealing with numbers these days? And what is that like for you?
I try not to deal too much with numbers these days. Yeah, my wife pays all the bills just because it's easier.
So the impact of the stroke has definitely sort of messed up with that part of your skills. Does it feel like the skill is still there, or have you lost the brain energy that's needed to focus on numbers for a period of time?
Um, I can do numbers, but like half an hour or 40 minutes, I start to tire from it. I was doing I was treasurer of a couple of small organisations which I gave away just because I didn't really want to need to do it 2 or 3 hours every other day to keep these things running. So I decided it was time to retire from them and let somebody else have the joy.
The joy. Um,
Or the problems.
yeah, right. All the problems. Yeah. Okay. So I understand what you mean about that fatigue and the tiring. It was definitely like that for me, looking at a computer screen after um, brain surgery and trying to recover from that was such a challenge. I mean, it was such a brain drain. And then I never felt confident that I was doing anything that was, I never felt that it was accurate. There was mistakes that I wasn't aware of that was happening. People would have to go over it and double check everything. And it was really frustrating and annoying. But I'm not in the position to retire. And, I had to kind of persevere and push on, and it's improved over time. I
Mm.
know that you don't do that now for a living and you're not a treasurer anymore, but have you also seen an improvement in your ability to concentrate on things like that for a little bit longer than you initially were able to?
Yes, yeah, I can. Uh, I still read a lot, but like I read in 20 minutes sessions. I do 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, 20 minutes before I go to bed, just so I keep my ability to read going. I find that I always enjoyed reading, and I used to read 3 books a month. These days, I'm lucky to do a book and a half,
Right.
depending.
Okay. So you still manage to find a way to squeeze in an hour, but you just break it up over the course of the day instead of do it
Yeah,
all at one block.
yeah, that's basically it.
So if you're getting through 3 or 4 books a month previously, you're doing several hours a day of reading.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I used to, like I'd start 10:30 and read until yeah one yeah 12:30 night, then go to bed.
Right. That's such a session of reading. You're talking about 10:30 in the morning.
In the evening,
Ah, I was going to say, okay. So you do a couple of hours of reading solid previously.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my father used to do that, and I think that's where I got them want to do it.
And with aphasia, now, because I don't know anything about aphasia really, does that impact your reading as well? Or is that not an issue with aphasia?
I I find it a lot harder to read constantly these days. Partly it's the aphasia, partly it's the fatigue. But the aphasia I found more in the writing, writing reports and things like that. I'm glad I don't have to worry about having to do that these days. Well, a lot of there's a lot of reports that sometimes you have to write in accounting, and that's the part that I really would struggle with these days. Writing emails, sometimes I think to myself, do I really have to do this? And I know it happens, so you do it. But it takes a lot longer to write them now than it used to.
Uh-huh. So not only is the speech, getting the words out of your mouth, like with your tongue, a problem, is it also an issue when you're putting the words on the paper or on the keyboard? Is it that the words, again, aren't coming to you, or when they are coming to you, they're difficult to extract and place on the keyboard?
Yeah, it's the whole thing. Yeah, it's finding the word, it's writing the word, it's speaking the word. So yeah, that sometimes does frustrate. I was trying to write something which I finally just about finished. I'll go and have another look at it later today for a piece I'm going to put out on my website about aphasia, and that's taken a lot of work to actually do. Then I'll send it to a friend of mine who usually reads these things for me, just to make sure I haven't done anything silly.
Let's take a quick pause here, but we'll be right back with Fred's story shortly. Before we continue, I want to remind you about my book, The Unexpected Way That a Stroke Became the Best Thing That Happened. It's not just a memoir, it's a guide on how to achieve post-traumatic growth after stroke. In this book, I share not only my own story, but those of other stroke survivors who turned their trauma into an opportunity for growth. If you're seeking hope, resilience, and practical steps to improve your life after stroke, this book is for you. You can find it on Amazon by searching for my name, Bill Gassiamis, or by heading over to recoveryafterstroke.com/book. Right, just to check over it, just to edit it.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Yeah. It really gives you a real kind of what you've described, a deeper understanding of what people experienced with aphasia and how challenging it is. And then there's the other side of it, is that people who don't understand what you're going through, they probably also get frustrated or think, why is this guy not finishing his sentences? Do you have that experience as well, where people kind of look at you and misunderstand not only what you're saying, but why you're speaking the way that you're speaking?
Yeah. Normally, if I'm meeting people, I tell them I've got aphasia. I used to be very worried about that for a long time. And then I realized if you actually explain to people what aphasia is and why you have the trouble speaking with them, they tend to understand, or at least give you a little bit of leeway with it. So it was very difficult in the start to explain to people that I have aphasia and give them a brief talk about it, because I don't want to bore them. So yeah, basically I just tell them that aphasia affects your ability to speak and communicate in general.
Yeah. And then give you a little bit of grace. So it seems like you're coming along quite well. You've previously said that you were physical, quite physical. You didn't mind a little bit of physical activity, that type of thing. Where are you now with physical activity? What do you are you able to do?
I walk a lot, walk up to 6K most days, except occasionally my right knee blows up and I slow that down. And what I do is I'll do one day walk, the next day I'll do exercises from the knees, and then the following day I walk again. So I'm basically just about to start that up again, because my right knee's blowing up a bit at the moment.
And are they just old sports injuries?
It's that and the rheumatoid arthritis, a bit of osteoarthritis in my right knee. So it's the combination of the two of them are pretty severe sometimes.
I hear you. Okay. So they get swollen and inflamed.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Understand. So exercise, though, is really important. when you have rheumatoid arthritis, if I understand correctly. It's
Very much
encouraged,
so.
isn't it?
Very much.
And do you find that that creates a lot of pain, and therefore do you have to medicate that pain?
I try not to use anything other than the drugs that I'm on for the rheumatoid arthritis, the heart problems, and the stroke. I don't tend to use any other medication if I can avoid it. Occasionally, I'll get a couple of Panadol Osteo or something like that, just to relieve the pain if it's really bad. But I try to work my way through it.
Okay. And does the pain, did the pain improve, decrease, get worse? Did it change after the stroke? Did you notice a difference in the way that you experienced the pain, or has it kind of remained as it was?
It's remained pretty constant because I was very lucky with my arthritis that medication had actually stopped it a lot or made it go into like reduced a lot. So I don't get a lot of pain these days, and I hope to continue on with that. But it's all on the luck of the gods. I'll go back to see my rheumatologist on Wednesday to have a look at my knee. So we'll wait and see.
So you're dealing with the aftermath of the heart, rheumatologists because of the arthritis, and neurologists, I imagine, or doctors regarding your brain. What's your calendar look like as far as doctor's appointments go?
Sometimes it's just nothing. Yeah, there's a few. I'm coming up to the 10-year of my defibrillator, and the battery's about to run out. So I'm seeing one of my cardiologists every 3 months at the moment just to work out when he's going to take me in and put the new battery in. But other than that, I see the rheumatologist 3 times a year, the cardiologist most of the time once a year, and when I need the neurologist, I see them.
Okay, so it's not too overwhelming. There's not too much to.
No, not at the moment. But there was times it felt like every other day I was going to a doctor's appointment.
Yeah. So with regards to the battery that you're talking about, where does that particular defibrillator sit? Is it also known as a pacemaker?
Now, a pacemaker is different.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's basically just about there.
Just beneath the shoulder, kind of.
Yes, just below the shoulder, just underneath the shoulder. Yeah.
And how big would you say it is? Can you feel it?
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's about that big.
Okay, so a couple of inches.
Yep. And it's they they cut me open, and I was awake the whole time. And you had this bloke sitting there cutting away, putting it in, checking it out. It was really quite interesting.
Or was he chatting about anything, or was he just focused on his job?
I was talking with the anaesthetist most of the time, and they occasionally say, "Could you two be quiet? I've got to get this bit right."
Right.
Yeah, so I got to know my cardiologist very well over the years.
So you've got this thing, and now you're probably going to go in similar procedure. You'll be awake. They'll take it out, replace the battery, and then pop it back in. And is it just a little incision that they make?
Yeah, it's 2 inches wide, 2 inches long, maybe 3.
And then you're off home, or you're recovering at hospital.
The first one I spent a night in the hospital, so I had no idea what it's going to be like this time. I presume it'll probably be a night.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, Fred. I mean, I everything that the medical people do these days is really cool. Like, don't get me wrong, everything. But a defibrillator as well in the chest that's that small, that's 2 inches or so big, just is unbelievable when you think about where technology is and how far it's come and how that thing operates. And then they can just pop it in and take it out and change a battery and keep you going. Do you ever think about all of that stuff and just get blown away? How do you deal with all of that?
It absolutely, when they told me I was going to have one, I thought, what? I understood the reason why, because my heart doesn't beat well. And it's important for me to understand that something goes wrong, this will pick it up. And every night there's a box next to my bed, which actually transfers it from a defibrillator to a computer in North Ryde.
So it goes from your house, it downloads and sends that information to the medical team in the hospital in North Ryde.
No, it's a company, and they'll let the doctor know if there's a problem.
Okay, so the private company has that system set up, downloads data, and then they report on anything strange or abnormal or
Yes,
something that they need to know about so that they can act when it's happening.
yes, basically yes. That's quite a yeah. And a pacemaker, all that does is just keep your heart beating. Because my father had one of them before he passed away.
This is far better than a pacemaker.
Well, yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Sounds like it. Are you aware of it? Does it sort of slip out of your mind sometimes, or are you always aware that it's sitting there and doing its thing?
I think most of the time I forget it's there until I have a shower and I go, oh, what's that? That over that. Oh, yeah, that's still there. Yeah, it's that type of thing. You know it's there, and it's doing whatever it's doing, and it doesn't. You notice it if I've got no shirt on. I'm not doing that now, but yeah, that's about the only time you notice it.
Right. So does it give you any information at home that you need to know of? Does it beep or make any noises, or do you notice anything? I imagine with the pacemaker, people would notice that it's kicked in and shocked the heart, right? So is this also doing that job, or is it just doing the reporting
It will
job?
let you know if there is a problem. I've had a couple of loud beeps go off and just gone to the hospital and found out it was just something going a little haywire. But they reckon if it needs to kick in, you'll know about it because it's like being hit in your chest by a bloke about 20 stone. That's quite a large thud, and it makes a large beep, so you really do know it's there.
That it's been activated as well. You're 100% aware of it.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Is this thing that you've gone through with your heart, is that so if you could kind of put them in order of kind of what's the hardest thing to deal with or the most challenging, what order would you put these things in? Because you've got rheumatoid arthritis, you've got stroke, you've got heart attack. Like, is there an order? Like, am I even making sense?
Like, I always think that the stroke's probably the bigger one because of the effect of the mind. It stopped me from working full time, and it made my life very interesting, to say the least.
Is that code for harder or more difficult? What is very, very interesting code for?
Probably, yes, it is harder but I still find great enjoyment from the fact that I'm still alive. My eldest daughters have a child, so I'm still around to see that. Something my grandfather didn't do. So those type of things I feel very grateful for that I'm still around to be involved.
Yeah. How heavy of a smoker were you?
Well, minimum 40 a day.
Yeah, that's heavy. Was it easy to quit? Did you go through withdrawals or any of those types of challenges?
No, I basically bought some of that, gum, stuck that in. After about 2 weeks, I was pretty much fine. But I knew I had to give it up. And something my father said to me, being able to give it up before you have to give it up is a lot easier than you've got to give it up.
Yeah. So you were ready to give it up. You'd made the decision. And you reckon a couple of weeks of chewing gum was enough? It just kind of, so it was more about was it more about the nicotine or the chemical addiction rather than for me, it was also that, but more importantly, it was kind of the, where do I put my hand for the rest of the day, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
that was a problem for a while. I must admit that too, because once upon a time I was forever doing this, and I mean, there were times when I finished one cigarette and light the next one type of thing. Yeah, it happened, but it was one of those things. I enjoyed it a lot. Still miss it.
Mm.
Yeah.
And now with your walking, do you find yourself extremely exhausted at the end of that walk? What's the routine after the walk? Because I remember when I was first sort of getting physical again and learning how to walk again, and um, maybe I wasn't doing 6 kilometers at the beginning, but I used to go to the gym and do some light sessions, and then I'd be like wasted for the entire day. How do you recover after you've done your 6 kilometers?
Pretty good, because I've been doing it for a long time. I basically, I because of the rheumatoid arthritis, I stopped running, but I started walking, and I try to walk 6K in 72 minutes.
Uh-huh.
So I'm trying to do it like I've raced with myself, just to keep it interesting. But when I first had my heart attack, I'd do 2K and I'd be buggered for 3 hours. But as I continued to work at it, I'd become a lot better. I can come home, sit down, do whatever I need to do, and then move on again. Yeah, and I like to get that done somewhere, 7:30 in the morning. It's the latest I want to start the walk. So I like to get it done early. A, it's still foolish, and B, it it works in with my lifestyle.
Yeah, right. So is it easier to do in summer or in winter? Does the weather affect you?
I'd much rather it in the winter than the summer. The summer, it's very hot, and I end up pretty much needing a shower by the time I get back.
You end up cooking. Do you live near the seaside?
Now I'm about 25K, 35K from the seaside, but I live by a river.
Okay. Yeah. I understand what you mean about the weather. Now, for me, I much prefer as well being out of the sun as much as I can during the afternoon. And that's the kind of time where you hear everyone sort of say, between 11 and 3, Keep Under a Tree. We had that song that we used to get sung
Mm.
to us about being being sun safe, you know, about overexposing ourselves, our skin to UV rays, right, for uh, skin cancer risk. But I find like in summer, if I'm out and about and it's kind of those midday hours, afternoon, it's really difficult to deal with the intensity of the sun, especially on a hot day. And I'd be inclined to just sit under the shade for 3 or 4 hours in the one spot and not move and do anything, just so that I could avoid being exposed like that. And it makes going to the beach kind of interesting because you see all these people sunbathing and being completely, totally exposed. If I haven't got a beach umbrella, I won't go to the sun, you know, to the beach in summer at all. There's no point being there because it's not enjoyable. And I actually can't cope with being that hot and over exposing myself. And that's
Yeah,
got worse after the stroke for me.
yeah, I find the same. And also just some of the drugs that I'm on, getting sunburn is not a good idea. So I tend to stay away from the sun. Yeah, and I still love the beach. Yeah, and my daughter, my eldest daughter's bought a place in Port Macquarie, which is a beach coast place, beautiful. And they're 15-minute walk from the beach.
So, what are your meds? Why do your meds make getting sunburnt worse? Not that it's not bad enough you're already getting sunburnt, but why is it even worse with those meds?
Oh, it's got to do with it's something that my first rheumatologist just told me, don't get into the sun. It's got to do with the methotrexate. It's just one of those byproducts of it, because it was an old cancer drug in the 50s, which they found helped people with rheumatoid arthritis. So it's one of those things. They tell you, I'm not going to, and it doesn't greatly worry me these days.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. I've never heard of it before, but that is interesting. So, with regards to your stroke, like, what's the hardest thing about stroke for you?
I think it, I think it was the fact that I didn't know what had happened, and it was a major thing that happened, and I didn't actually really know it happened. And the aphasia and the fatigue. Yes, I understood fatigue from before because the arthritis and the heart problems gives you fatigue, but the neuro fatigue is a lot worse.
Yeah. What has stroke taught you?
Well, to be grateful that you're still alive, you know, and that I can still enjoy my life. You know, one of my daughters got married after we had the stroke. And the first one got married just before I had the stroke. So yeah, I'm still able to go out, be with friends, enjoy my life, although occasionally I have trouble talking to people.
Did you not? Okay, this is going to sound weird. I know you're grateful, right? But with your heart attack, did you not have that I'm grateful to be alive moment? Or what was that like? Was that a similar experience?
I think I think I think I remember actually talking to a friend of mine and he turned around and said, well, what do you think? I turned around and said, to be perfectly honest with you, I was quite grateful that it happened. Now I can get on with the rest of my life. Because I always had this great fear that I could die because I smoked like a chimney. And if it happened earlier, it probably could have. And it was something when my father had his stroke, his heart attack, his cardiologist turned around and said, for a bloke who smoked more than 60 a day, which is probably the better one I can work out for you, and you've suffered a heart attack and still alive, I'd go and buy yourself a lottery ticket. And that basically that stuck with me for a long, long time. Didn't make me stop smoking.
But you had even, like, you still had that monkey on your back. You still thought that this is probably going to happen to me. And then you were relieved that it was out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Because my family was smoked heavily, and my father had three other siblings. Two of them had heart attacks, and they all had it at 54.
Uh-huh. Okay. So this might sound weird, right? Didn't you think that maybe it's a good idea to stop that lifestyle way before any of the trouble so that you don't have what happened to the others? I know you probably think that that's the right way to go now, but back then it never occurred to you that I could change my lifestyle, do something different.
No, no, no. Look, I started smoking at 14. I was going to do it till the day I died. Thankfully, I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, now with regards to stroke, there's people listening to the podcast. They've been around uh, for a while. Perhaps they just started their recovery. What do you want to tell somebody about stroke recovery? What wisdom would you like to impart on them?
Listen to it. Listen to what the doctors tell you. Work out what will work for you. And remember, you're the only person who can make your recovery what it is. So you've actually got to do all the work yourself.
Thanks so much for that, Fred. On that note, I really appreciate you joining me on the podcast.
Thank you, Bill. It's been a wonderful.
Well, that brings us to the end of another episode. I hope Fred's incredible journey of surviving an ischemic stroke, heart attacks, and managing rheumatoid arthritis provided you with hope and valuable insight. His strength in the face of multiple health challenges and his determination to live a full life despite aphasia and other deficits is truly inspiring. Thank you to everyone who has already left a review. It helps others find the show and provides much needed encouragement to stroke survivors. If you haven't already, please consider leaving a 5-star rating and sharing your thoughts on iTunes and Spotify. And for those watching on YouTube, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the show to stay updated on future episodes. If you'd like to further support the podcast, you can do so by subscribing to our Patreon page at patreon.com/recoveryafterstroke. Every contribution helps bring stories like Fred's to more people who need encouragement and advice on their stroke recovery journey. And if you know a stroke survivor or you are one yourself and you have a story to share, I'd love to hear from you. My interviews are relaxed and unscripted. Just come as you are. Lastly, if you have a product or a service related to stroke recovery, consider sponsoring an episode. Visit recoveryafterstroke.com/contact to get in touch. Thanks again for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gassiamis. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation consultation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.